Today we're going to be talking with Nick Kreuter of WestStar Property Management. He's the Director of Construction and Maintenance, and he's helped oversee over 500 property rehabs in Long Beach. All right, Nick, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so I really wanted to get you on the show because you got a ton of experience on the construction side of things. I know you've done probably about 500 major rehabs over the last couple of years that you've been with WestStar. And I wanted to kind of dive into that, specifically what's going on in Long Beach. But before we do, why don't you explain a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to be working with WestStar?
Thanks, Chad. Yeah, it's great to be here. So a little bit about my background. I actually come from commercial construction. I started in the oil and gas industry when I got out of high school, and I worked my way up there. I went back to school, and I was actually building restaurants and doing some retail stuff. And then a couple of years ago, I just kind of got tired of the commercial side because you don't have a whole lot of control from, an engineering standpoint. And I put my application in with WestStar. They needed a project manager at the time, and they hired me because of my heavy commercial background, and it was a great fit, and it was off to the races then.
Cool. All right. I know WestStar does more than just property management. You guys have a maintenance construction division called AllFix. What are sort of the differences between like what WestStar management would do versus AllFix maintenance?
So WestStar is the management arm of the company. AllFix is the construction department. So we have 15 guys in house, and then anywhere from 100 to 200 employees outside of the company through vendors and subcontractors and general contractors. And then we operate as both a construction manager and a general contractor depending on the size of the job. If it's a big job, we bring in a GC and we'll act as a CM and just manage the GC. Architects or engineers depending on what is required. The smaller jobs, we operate as a general contractor and we bring in the subs or use our own guys to do them.
Gotcha. And then, so with AllFix maintenance, those are your in-house. That's your in-house crew.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. And then, what kind of like size jobs would AllFix go up to on some of these rehabs?
For full buildings, 7 figures.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So that's good size work. I know WestStar is managing over 2,000 units now. Mostly all in Long Beach, SoCal area. What are you seeing as far as like trends in let's talk about Long Beach because that's where CSQ is doing quite a bit of investing right now. So what are you seeing as far as trends on like studios versus 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units?
It's a very interesting subject because of what COVID has done to the market down here. There are so many submarkets in Long Beach: Alamitos Beach, North Alamitos Beach, Belmont Heights, and Bluff Park, Rose Hill South, Belmont Shore, just to name a few. When you talk about the different unit sizes, I think you really have to talk about the different build periods too, right? You have 3 main build periods in Long Beach. You have the pre-Great Depression, right, which is also, pre what's called UBC, the Universal Building Code. So you have all of these different, really smaller units during that time period. And then you get into, the post-World War II. So really 1948 until the gas crisis in, like the early 1970s. Then you kind of have a pause until you get to the mid-1980s. And then another period from the mid-1980s really until the early 90s. One of the things that we see a lot of, those newer style units from the 80s to the 90s tend to rent a lot better, right? And it's because of the size of the unit. In the UBC in 1985 changed, and the 1-bedrooms had to be substantially larger than they did a lot of those other time periods. So you might have a studio that's built in the 80s that's the same size as a 1-bedroom that was built, pre-Great Depression. And so I think really one of the things we've seen is people want something that is upgraded, that's renovated, right? Regardless of the time period it's in. And you have a lot of supply down here, but you don't have a lot of quality when it comes to the renovations. And that's one of the things that we really stress is the quality in it because it's something that people look for. The studios are an interesting thing because it's a topic that's heavily debated internally at WestStar because of rent control. Studios inherently turn faster than 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms. At the same time, if you talk about keeping rents at market, there's a potential that if the market keeps growing, you're better off having studios than anything else because you can keep them at market longer because they turn quicker.
Mm. What are you seeing as far as demand from the tenant base, generally speaking? Are the studios in higher demand than the 3 bedrooms, or the 2 bedrooms in higher demands than the 1 bedrooms? What are you seeing?
I think the 2 bedrooms are definitely the most demanded in Long Beach because there's not a whole lot of them, especially when you get into that submarket over by like the college because of all the roommates.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and you look at rents pre-COVID, for a standard 2 bedroom over on the east side, you were probably close to $2,000, if not over $2,000. That came down quite a bit because school wasn't in, so that demand dropped, and it kind of leveled out across Long Beach somewhere between $1,795 and $1,895. But the last month or so, that demand has re-picked up for a number of reasons. One, because college is going back in session in the fall. Long Beach is starting to open back up, which has really opened the demand floodgates because people have come back here, right? Very heavily service industry based, which is a lot of jobs here. A lot of that left. And I think one of the things you're going to see this year is you're really going to see rents spike for people that have units available, right? Because so many people vacated during COVID and those have been refilled. The people that do have supply moving forward and good supply are going to be in a very good position, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to know. I mean, the CSQ properties, as you know, our buildings down there is a mix of mostly two bedrooms, 1 bath, and 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So we have some studios, but it seems like the 2+1s are renting pretty strong. They're not on the market very long. I know we just had a unit that we raised the rent on from higher than pre-COVID levels. So we are starting to see that those rents increase there as well. And yeah, there seems to be pretty strong demand for those 2+1s.
Yeah, that's a very consistent thing we've seen. I mean, I don't know the actual percentage of studios 1s and 2s, but I mean, just when I think about our portfolio here, the 2 bedrooms probably make up, I would say, 10 to 15% of it. The 1s are probably in the 30 percentile, and the rest are studios.
Yeah.
Because again, it's interesting because when you go south of 7th Street, there's a plethora of studios. Because or let's say south of Anaheim, because when they were building in downtown, most of that was, the pre-Great Depression era.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the building that we're in escrow in right now was built in 1910.
Right.
And yeah, that's, less than a mile from the beach. And, but it's in a historical district. It's a beautiful building. And we got some room for growth on the rents there with doing a value add. So, we're working on that building right now. I think we'll close in a couple of weeks, close escrow.
Right.
So what about amenities? Like maybe we can dive into that a bit. It's one thing talking about the size of the units, right? That's just like at the 10,000 foot level, but obviously there's a lot more details that go into, a tenant making a decision on where to live. What about some of the other amenities like parking or laundry? Maybe we can dive a little bit into like rehabbing the kitchen versus the bedrooms versus the bathrooms. How does all that fit into the equation from what you're seeing from a tenant's value perspective?
I think the number one thing we saw with COVID was, safety and security, right? It's something that, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's the number one need, right? And, that was really reinforced by COVID. And I think even at some of your properties, like 1955 Locust, right? You could almost land a 747 over there with the amount of lights there.
Yeah.
Right. But it feels very safe. And when people come home at night, that's what they want. They want to walk up to some place where they feel safe at. They want to walk up to some place where, they can go in and there's no fear of anybody being in there that they're not going to know. I think that was probably the number one thing. As far as amenities go, parking is number one in Long Beach. I mean, you rent very quickly if you have parking, and you generally, you get an extra $100 to $200 a month, depending on if it's a garage or a parking spot or a carport. In-unit laundry is big. But I will say that the in-unit laundry is also dependent on the location, right? So if you're in Belmont Shore, it's going to make a big deal, right? For some of these tenants, if they're renting, north of, let's say, PCH, it's more about cost than it is about the amenities, right? They're looking for some place that's relatively affordable, where the person in Belmont Shore can afford to pay $50 or $100, $150 a month extra to have that amenity. Kitchen versus bathroom. I think bathrooms are more important than kitchens personally, because people don't, although the kitchen people love them, in today's day and age, a lot of people don't eat in anymore. They bring food in, right? They eat out constantly. So that's not as much of a value as the bathroom is to me and to what I've seen with prospective tenants, because everybody uses the bathroom, right? New showers, storage in the bathroom with vanities or cabinets, nice toilets, nice flooring, and shower doors makes a big difference, because most apartments don't have shower doors, and a lot of them even make you supply your own shower curtains and shower rods. So when you supply those things, it seems very minuscule, but the devil's in the details.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember on some of our last rehabs that we did over at 1470 Elm, we even added the Bluetooth powered speakers in the vanity mirror. So
Right.
got a nice backlit mirror and Bluetooth speakers that connect to your phone, and some of that technology getting it into the bathroom, and it seems like tenants really appreciate that.
Yeah, they do. It's those little details that people really appreciate.
Yeah.
That, and then storage too. In-unit storage has been something that we've tried to develop in some of those older buildings, because a lot of those older buildings they have one closet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put a closet organizer or something like that in there, it tends to go a long way.
Yeah. All right. I know on the building we're in escrow in right now, we've been going back and forth on the discussions of whether to put laundry in the studio versus having laundry, creating a laundry room on the penthouse. Maybe we could visit that a little bit. I know this is like literally we're just going through this on that building, but maybe we could talk through the thought process and decision process on having in-suite type laundry versus having laundry in a penthouse and having like a laundry room.
A laundry room is a great amenity to have. I mean, because a lot of places they have to go places for laundry. It depends on the tenant base. Again, that tenant base is one of those ones that I think even if you have it in-house, you're still going to be better off than a lot of what you're competing against,
Yeah.
right? Whereas, if you go down to Belmont Shore, you're going to be competing against people that have laundry. So if you want to get that market rent, you need to be offering those amenities.
Yeah. Yeah, some anecdotal evidence when I was walking the building through going through inspections on that one. I haven't talked to some of the existing tenants, and I said, "Hey, would you rather have laundry, set up in your closet, get a stackable laundry unit, or would you rather have a nicer kitchen?" And they all said they'd rather have the nicer kitchen. So, I mean, sometimes you got to get the boots on the ground and actually talk to the people that live there. And they were saying similar things to what you and I have decided on, but it helps to hear from them directly.
It does. I mean, it's another thing to note in Long Beach's outdoor space, how valuable outdoor space is for people that live down here, because there's not a whole lot of places that have a little patio.
Yeah.
So that's another thing we've seen where some of our clients, we've opted to spend a lot of money furnishing little outdoor areas with turf or pavers or, real grass. Because millennials in the 21st century, pets are the new kids from millennials, right? Yeah. So how do you cater to that generation, right? Well, you do things that, like that, where they can take their pet outside and they have some place for their pet.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as they're not, as long as they're cleaning up after themselves. So
Yeah.
This artificial turf gets pretty dirty.
Yeah, it does. It's a gift and a curse.
Oh man. A question now, as far as like, you guys are managing over 2,000 units in the area, and you've been doing it for several years now. What are you seeing as far as like trends within Long Beach and activity and construction? What have you seen over the last few years, and where do you see it going in the future?
I think it's going to continue. I think it's actually going to pick up really heavily this year, towards the end of this year, for a variety of reasons. I think it's one of the only markets in value add that you can still really push the envelope as far as rents go, right? So we've done some inspections recently where, the pro forma is at, let's say, $1,250, and I could easily make the argument that, hey, listen, we should start at $1,325 if we do X, Y, and Z. Yep. And we might actually have a chance to get it, right? Because again, I think there is going to be a supply constraint towards the end of this year, because everybody is coming back here as Long Beach opens up. And again, that requires some positioning because from what I hear, there's not a whole lot of supply out here in the market in the way of sales. But again, I think it's one of the only markets that you can really push the pro forma that we've seen. But we have some stuff up in LA that's on the west side and mid city that has been absolutely crushed with rents. We had stuff that was renting for, $20.95, $21.95 for ones. That's down to $17.50, $17.95, right?
Yeah.
In Long Beach, I think the biggest dip we saw was in those 2 bedrooms on the east side by the college that went down, when you look at it percentage wise, very nominally, 10%, 15%, but they jumped back up very quickly, right? We don't really see that kind of effect in LA, in Inglewood, but also you have that rent control constraint over there, right? So if you went down to 1750, right, and you can only raise, I don't know what it is, 4% a year, I believe, right? To get back up to that 21.95, even if you have decent inflation, it's going to take you a while to get back up there.
Yeah.
Right. Where Long Beach is still under state rent control, which is good. It's better than LA and Inglewood and some of those other areas. But at the same time, Long Beach has such a turn in it for a variety of reasons. Because number one, you have the college here, right? So you inevitably have some people that leave due to natural attrition like that, and you have a lot of supply. So from an investor standpoint, I think there's a lot of reason to still purchase in Long Beach.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why for CSQ, we're very heavy into Long Beach. We're buying these C-class buildings and improving them to B-class buildings. And to your point, during COVID, we had 0 vacancies. We had no missed rent. And like the last 2 units I was talking about, we've actually increased the rent from pre-COVID levels. So it's been great. And I think if people have an assumption that, LA rent has gone down, and sometimes you see these studies, you really have to look into the pockets, and it does come down to location. And Long Beach hasn't seen that at all. Long Beach rents have increased by 2% on average over the last year. So some of these A-class neighborhoods in LA where they've seen these bigger drops, we just haven't experienced that in Long Beach, thankfully.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think you get people that make generalizations that don't have the real-time data that we have across Southern California. And we look at this, pretty much weekly. And hey, what's going up? What's going down? What's driving the market, and where are rents going? And I mean, by and large, other than some small pockets in LA, most everything is either flat or up. Obviously, that stuff on the west side in LA and that value add in the mid-city area, and even up into like Echo Park was hit for a variety of reasons. Long Beach, I mean, even if you go into North Long Beach, we rented a unit in North Long Beach that was a pretty nice renovation, but it wasn't anything I would say that's spectacular in comparison to what we did. We rented a 1-bedroom that was built in the 60s for 625 square feet. That rented for $1,650, right? In North Long Beach by the 710 and the 91. Yeah. Right. And I don't know, there's a internal dialogue, like, is it a commuter area, right? Like, these people can be on the freeway, they can go down the 710 and be in downtown very quickly, or they can be up in LA or wherever they're working. Possibly, I think that's something to talk about with Long Beach. It's like, what's your proximity to the freeway, right? I think that does add value in a lot of situations, because if you're living off of like Cherry and 10th or Cherry and 7th, it's not exactly, you're probably going to spend, somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes to get to the freeway.
Yeah.
Right. So there's another argument to be made there, that being close to a freeway is a great option for a building.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Well, this has been super helpful. I appreciate it. What, if people want to get in touch with you and WestStar, what's the best way?
My email, nick@weststarproperty.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to keep buying buildings in Long Beach, and we appreciate you guys helping with some of the renovations and property management. We're going to have a lot more buildings coming down the pipeline. So thanks for everything you guys are doing, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. We look forward to it.
I'd agree with Nick. There's a lot of construction going on in Long Beach. CSQ is proud to be a part of this work. If you're interested in learning more, please reach out to us at csqproperties.com, Facebook, or Instagram. Thanks a lot.